Hello, friends. Welcome to Story Behind Podcast. This is the show for people who love hearing a good story and who believe the world could use more positivity. We're the team behind GodUpdates and GodTube, and we hope these weekly short stories will brighten your day.
Philip O Driscoll nearly died in a helicopter crash, but here's how love saved him. Written by Adam Staten, read by Adam Staten. Philip O Driscoll nearly survived a helicopter crash, but his wife's love is what kept him going through the long and painful recovery. Love is powerful. It perseveres through even the most difficult of circumstances. As God's word points out in 1 Corinthians 13:8, love never fails. One couple who has gone through a devastating experience exemplifies this unfailing love. In 2005, Philip, an Australian helicopter pilot, suffered horrific burns in a crash. Phil, who had just landed his dream job as a pilot for a Canadian mining company, was on his way to pick up 3 men when something terrible happened. The helicopter's engine failed just prior to picking up one of the men. At the time, Philip had 2 options to land the helicopter. The first one would have killed the man waiting to board the aircraft. Philip chose, instead, the second option that sent the aircraft down the side of the mountain, ending in a fiery explosion, according to 60 Minutes Australia. Philip's bold action saved the man's life. Badly burned, Philip was rushed to the hospital. Kate, the love of Phil's life, who was 3 months pregnant with their daughter Hannah, immediately hopped on a plane to Canada. Phil was so badly burned that Kate admits he was barely recognizable. "I wouldn't have known it was Philip," she said. "Apart from, you could just see his chest and this was the part of his chest where I always used to lay my head. But any of the rest of him, it could have been anybody." Time since the accident has been long and arduous. In the years since the accident, Philip has undergone nearly 40 operations, but it's been the love from Kate and Hannah that has kept Phil going. Kate, who is a trained nurse, changes Phil's bandages almost daily. "It's changed the whole dynamics of our relationship," she said. "We were used to not spending too much time together. It's changed the whole dynamics of our relationship," she said. "We were used to not spending too much together because Philip would always be away working for long periods to having to spend 24 hours a day together." Kate adds, with a laugh, that she still finds time to give him a hug when she's not trying to kill him. For her to have to sit every day and try to find that line between carer and lover type thing, she's had to be my mother, basically, Philip said. The video of Phil's story also shows Philip, Kate, and Hannah enjoying a day at the beach. Philip adds that some days are tougher than others and admits that smiling can be a chore at times, but with his daughter around, that's never the case. "It's hard to find the strength to smile some days," Philip said. "But when I look at my daughter, it's not hard to smile." Ephesians 4:2. With all gentle and quiet behavior, taking whatever comes, putting up with one another in love.
This Easter, we want to invite you on a journey back to first century Palestine as we dive deeper into the lives of Simon Peter, Judas, Pilate, John, Mary Magdalene, and others in the Characters of Easter podcast. Hosted by Daniel Darling, the Characters of Easter will help you become acquainted with the unlikely people who witnessed the miracle of Christ's death and resurrection. Enter into their stories and ultimately draw closer to Christ himself as you encounter him through their experiences. This free 11-episode podcast provides a fresh approach to the Lenten season and can be used as a devotional or study for both individuals and groups. Visit lifeaudio.com today or search for the Characters of Easter in your favorite podcast app.
Retired Marine prays to God and then follows his gut to find missing 2-year-old. Written by Mel Johnson, read by Adam Staten. Retired Marine Roy Link didn't know 2-year-old JJ Rowland or his family, but when the 62-year-old man heard a boy had gone missing, he couldn't resist joining the search. He turned to God for help, and it led him straight to the lost child. After laying down to take a nap with her 2-year-old son, the mother of Joshua, JJ Rowland, awoke to every parent's nightmare. The child was nowhere to be found. News of the missing child tugged at the heart of Florida resident Roy Link. and the Marine veteran quickly abandoned his plans to go fishing and join the search for little JJ. How could you not? The humble man pondered. Crews had already been searching for 24 hours without any success, and this caused mounting concern over the boy's well-being. That long period, everybody starts thinking the worst, and it's hard not to. It's like, how can all these people and all these deputies searched all this and not find a clue, Roy said. About an hour after going off to search on his own, Roy turned to the Lord for help. I said a prayer about 10 minutes before I found him, he recalled later. Coming upon an open field, Roy faced 2 different areas of woods to search, and he relied upon his gut feeling when selecting which area to explore in the hopes of finding JJ Rowland. Just minutes after heading down his chosen path, he heard whimpering. The sounds led him straight to the little boy, who was sitting barefoot among briars with tears in his eyes. And after Roy assured JJ he would take him back to his mom, the little boy climbed into his arms and clung to his rescuer tightly. Roy Link called in to report JJ Rowland safe and then carried the boy back to a rescue cruise. Overwhelmed by the crowd, the scared boy held on to Roy, only getting into the ambulance so long as Roy joined him. He had scratches all over his arms and legs, but he really looked in good health, Roy said. He did not look like a 2-year-old that's been out in the woods for ever how many hours. Despite having traveled a good distance from his home and spending over 24 hours in the woods, paramedics found JJ to be in good condition, and everyone rejoiced over the happy ending that defied all odds. I was hoping and praying for a miracle. I certainly was not expecting one, the sheriff said. Everyone has praised Roy for his noble efforts, but the Marine veteran humbly shrugged off all acclaim. You know, it could have been anyone. It just happened to be me, he said. And emotions took over after a reporter asked Roy what it was like coming upon a 2-year-old JJ lost in the woods. You know, it's so many emotions, he said, pausing to fight back tears. After collecting himself, Roy then continued. I would say, who wouldn't get emotional in that kind of situation, you know? But I was just happy I found him, so happy he was alive and well. Just seeing the parents reunited with him, I couldn't have asked for a better day, a better outcome. God undoubtedly worked a miracle through this man, and we're so glad little JJ is safely back home with his family. And your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, this is a way, walk you in it. Isaiah 30:21.
Thank you so much for listening to Story Behind Podcast. We're really glad you joined us for this week's story. To see photos and videos that may have been referenced in this episode, check out the links in the show notes. And if you enjoyed what you heard today, subscribe to our podcast, and please tell a friend about us. We'd also love it if you'd rate us and leave us a review. It really does help more people find us. Story Behind is a Salem Web Network production.
Hey there, it's Nicole Eunice from the How to Study the Bible podcast, and I'd love to invite you to join us as we weekly discover a passage of God's Word together. From beginning to end, from principles to practicals, we are here to make sure that God's Word is powerful and relevant to your life. If that sounds like something you're looking for, I would love to invite you to subscribe. You can go to lifeaudio.com and search How to Study the Bible, and we'll see you there.